Okay, Ms. Allison, your redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I'm going to remind you that we're not always that strict about it in land court, but I'm going to be strict about the idea that redirect may not include anything that wasn't brought up for the first time on cross-examination.
It will not, I assure you. Mr. Venozzi, would you please look at exhibit 72, please?
Is that agreed title?
Yes, agreed title, exhibit 72.
I have that exhibit and transcript in front of me.
All right, I'm gonna, as we talk about this, I'm gonna share my screen to show chalk A, your chalk. Are you able to see that, Mr. Venozzi?
I see that.
Okay. And you can see the area crossed hatched as what's marked as the Harris farm on this chalk, right?
Number 13 and 13 in my legend.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. I've enlarged it a bit. Want to be sure you can see it. All right, so
Yes.
please look at actually, let's start with exhibit 114, excuse me, in the agreed title.
Okay.
Nope. I've got my exhibits backwards. 72. Let's stick with 72.
Okay.
So, Mr. Venozzi, would you tell us what with reference to your chalk, what the westerly bound of this deed is?
The westerly boundary described in the deed, I just want to read it properly, is bounded westerly by a two-rod way leading to John Bateman's lot and called Joseph's lot. And on the chalk, that is approximated by the dashed line around the crosshatched area where the pointer is now pointing, which is the westerly of the number 1 in the lot number 1442.
Okay. Now please turn to exhibit 114. Also in the agreed title exhibits.
Oh, hang on. There's a lot of pages to turn at once. Hang on. Yes, I have 114 in front of me. That's the Christie deed.
Yes, 114. That's right. I'm going to refer you to the second entry on the page, which is the Christie to Emerson deed.
That's correct. Okay, we're at the same spot.
And with reference to your chalk, would you please describe what the westerly bound in that deed is?
The second parcel?
No, the reference to the first parcel, which is called the parcel called the Harris farm.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got we're talking about the first parcel in the Christie deed.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm asking you what the westerly bound is with reference to your chalk.
Westerly by land of Cyrus Clark and Mount Lane, so-called. That's the westerly boundary in the Christie deed.
Okay. And where would you place that on your chalk?
Again, that's approximated by the dashed purple line that runs west of the 1 in lot 1442.
Okay. Would you please explain your testimony yesterday that these two deeds that we just looked at, Exhibit 72 and Exhibit 114, are not the same parcel?
That is correct. The Christie parcel only extends as far as, I want to get the wording right, southerly by the road leading from Concord to Carlisle, which I had indicated was Estabrook Road. And I had testified that the deed at Exhibit 72, is that the other one you wanted me to, that's the one at 72?
That was the Wilson deed that we first looked at, yes.
Yes, that deed straddles Estabrook Road and has land both east and west of Estabrook Road.
Okay. So to clarify, your testimony was that the property shown in the Christie deed 114 was within the parcel of property.
Your Honor,
shown.
I object. It's leading. It's
I'm
for
trying.
witness.
Fine.
I'm going to allow it.
I'm just trying to clarify. I think you said it pretty clearly, Mr. Venozzi, but you've been here for 3 days. So I just want to confirm that it's the parcel that shown in 114 is within the parcel described in 72.
Standing objection, Your Honor. Harvard would like to object to the continued.
Overruled.
With the qualification that the Christie deed has the same westerly boundary, it only extends as far as I opine to Estabrook Road. The dashed, whether the Christie deed includes other land northwest of the deed at Exhibit 72, I have not opined about, but in the area where it's near the roads, the Christie deed lies within the Exhibit 72 deed.
I see. You haven't offered an opinion on the northwest bound of the Christie deed.
That is correct.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I have a standing objection?
You may.
Thank you.
Mr. Venozzi, now I'd like you to turn to agreed exhibit. We're in the agreed exhibit binder now, not the title exhibit binder. Exhibit. I'm going to ask you to look at 26 first.
A moment while I get the proper binder. Okay, agreed exhibit number
26.
26. Yes, okay, that I have.
All right, and just to move this along, I just want you to note agreed exhibit 26. Also, please look at agreed exhibit 28.
Yes, is this 26 is Carlisle, 28 is Concord.
1794 maps from
Yes.
Carlisle. Okay. As a professional land surveyor, Mr. Venozzi, what weight, if any, would you give to these maps in determining whether a road is laid out as a public way?
Very little. The statute casts a wide net, and
Your Honor, I would object to him testifying beyond the answer to the question.
Well, then let me ask you another
Sustained.
question. Why would you give very little weight to those maps?
the statute casts a wide net.
Your Honor, again, I would object. This is beyond the scope of the cross-examination.
Well, you brought up these maps for the first time on cross-examination. And I'm going to allow her to inquire.
Your Honor, let me also object that it's beyond the scope of his qualifications.
So noted.
They asked him about it on
Objections
direct.
overruled.
I mean, on cross, okay. All right, Mr. Venozzi. Do you remember my question? Why would you give little weight, is I think what you said, to maps seen in Exhibit 26 and 28?
Yes. My opinion is that the statute casts a wide net of what it wanted on these plans, and that the towns did what they could to provide that, but I have often found them to be incomplete one way or the other, as far as whether I don't see them as dispository on whether a way is public or private. We look to other evidence for that.
Okay.
I would move to strike, Your Honor, and for the record, on Ms. Tillotson's cross, she was not permitted to inquire into the resolve.
Yeah, the motion is granted. Mr. Venozzi is not permitted to testify as to whether a map is dispositive, as to whether the road is public or private. That's a legal conclusion.
Yeah. And my question, to be clear, Mr. Venozzi, wasn't asking for a legal conclusion. It was, as a professional land surveyor, if you are asked to determine in your professional capacity whether a way is public, what weight would you give to Exhibit 26 and 28?
And I would just object that was asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. Mr. Venozzi, what is, you've testified to both what you call.
Are you done with this map? With this
I
chart?
am, yeah. The chalk, yes, let me stop that. Sorry about that, Your Honor. Mr. Venozzi, you testified over the last, during the cross, to what you called locative and passing calls, or referenced those things. What is the difference between those two types of calls?
Again, objection. I didn't, that's beyond the scope of the cross-examination. I didn't ask him about that.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
When we read a land boundary document, a right of way, or a deed, there are calls to, say, points and monuments that are locative. A fence post, a corner of someone's land, and those I would characterize as locative calls. As we go between the points, we pass things. We might go over someone's land or by a swamp, and those are what I would characterize as passing calls. They're instructive to finding the locative calls.
Okay. So as a professional land surveyor, what weight do you accord each of those calls in locating a way on the ground?
As I said, the passing calls inform where the locative calls would be. So they both provide valuable information for placing and determining where a way is, but one informs the other. But they're equally important in determining where a way is.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Venozzi. You are excused.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Allison, do you need a few minutes to get your next witness on the stand?
We do. We're going to have her join, Your Honor.
And your next witness is?
Miss Kristen Heichert.
Okay, we'll be back. It's now 10:30 or so. We'll be back at 10:35.